Hello. So this will be the third part of the videos where we are discussing about the multi-site clustering. In previous two videos, we got a very brief idea about the different configurations, specifically the site replication factor, the site search factor, and as well as the search affinity. These three main concepts we learned about. Now let us try to implement the same in a cloud environment. So for that, if you see, I have taken some instances over here. So mainly what I am trying to achieve it over here is whatever we saw in our PPT. So we will try to implement a two-site cluster. Each and every site will have, let's say, 3 peers and single searches. For now, we will just try to implement with the single searched. Maybe in later videos we will talk about the searched cluster as well, how to integrate that. So we will first try to achieve the simple stuff, then we will move on to the more complex stuff over here. And there will be a single manager node. So if you see it over here, I have taken in my Google Cloud, I have taken a single manager node, 2 sites. For each and every site I have taken 3 peers. If you see it here, for each and every site I have taken a single searched over here. Now what I have done is, for each and every server over here I have installed Splunk 8. Now you can work with any version of the Splunk which supports multi-site clustering, and I have installed the latest version of the Splunk. Now if you just do not know how to install Splunk in Google Cloud, maybe you can follow the other videos I have created in the Splunk admin playlist. Maybe I will just show you over here. So there are a lot of videos on how to basically install Splunk in Google Cloud Ubuntu instance. So I have basically taken the same Ubuntu instances over here only, Ubuntu 18.04 I think I have taken it. So you can follow that, and this particular video will be part of this playlist as well. So if you see, like, these are the part 1 and part 2 of the multi-site clustering. So this video you will find somewhere over here at the below over here. Now if you see, another thing over here is the zone. I have taken the site 1 zone as US East 1 and site 2 zones are US West 1. Now the manager node, even though it does not belongs to a particular site, but we have to give a site, we have to assign a site for the manager node as well. It has to decide on a site. So that's why I have taken the manager node in US East 1 itself. Now configuration wise, we will follow, basically I have created a single text document, so we can follow that. The upper part of the document, where even though you do not look into that videos where we need to install Splunk, so you can still follow these steps to install Splunk in your Ubuntu instance. So that's why I have kept these steps as well. So what it's basically doing, it's basically creating a Splunk user, and then as a part of that user, using that user, basically it is downloading Splunk 8.2 and installing it using the package. That's it. And then just enabling the boot start and starting the Splunk. So that is what it is doing it. And over here, if you see it, like, I have just taken all the different URLs for all the manager nodes and sites nodes over here. Now to configure cluster, as we have seen for the normal indexing cluster, so there are 3 steps. First you will configure the manager, then you will configure the peer nodes, then you will configure the searches here. So we will follow the similar step over here as well. Now if you remember from our indexer clustering video, we fully used UI for creating the cluster, right? So now for multi-site cluster, you cannot do it from the UI. So you have to do it from the backend. Now there are 2 ways you can do it from the backend. One is directly updating the server.conf file, or you can use CLI commands, something like this one, cluster config, which we have seen as well in my indexer cluster video briefly. So which we will basically try to use the same command over here, same utility over here to create the cluster. And if you see, so let us first concentrate on the manager node, then we will concentrate on the other nodes over here. So for the manager node, if you see, I am just trying to run this particular command. So let us first try to understand this one. So if you just try to basically compare from the indexer clustering video, so similar stuff is happening over here. So this is the command Splunk edit cluster config. Now in the indexer cluster video we have seen you need to provide a mode. So for the manager node, the mode is manager. So that is what we have given it over here. Now as we are configuring multi-site cluster, this one has to be true. So this is important. This you need to pass it as true over here. And then this is also important. You need to provide what will be your available sites. Now as we are creating two sites, so that's why I have given site 1 and site 2. So this is important. Basically this site is a keyword here, so you can use site then any number. So maximum you can use up to 63, like site 63, from 1 to 63. Even you can use 0 as well, which we'll see that later. Now as I am creating only two sites, so that's why I have given site 1 comma site 2 as my available sites. Now this master node will be belongs to a particular site, right, as we discussed before. So this site parameter is actually telling us this master node belongs to which site. So as I want it to belongs to site 1, so it is, that's why I have given site 1 over here. Now these two things, site replication factor, site search factor, we have discussed extensively, so I will not go to that part. Only thing is that I have just given these two things. So there will be the origin site will get 2 copies, replication copies, and the total will be 3. And for search factor also, origin will be will get 1 searchable copy, total will be 2 over here. And you have to give a SIM key, basically secret key. So I have just given a normal password here. You should be giving a proper password for your production scenario. So let us try to run this one in our manager node. So I will log into this manager node from the backend. So if you are familiar with Google Cloud, even you can directly SSH from here as well. So that is what I have done it here. So this is from the above bar itself, you will know this is the manager node. So I'll just clear the screen here. Okay, then I will try to run that particular command over here. Okay, so let us do that. So it is asking for my sudo password, so I have given the same password. So Splunk username, it will ask for that one. I'll be giving the Splunk username and their corresponding password. Okay, so it is saying the cluster config property has been edited, so you need to restart Splunk. So let us restart Splunk once. So if you see, I have run this command from the Splunk bin folder. So this is also important. I was installing Splunk in this particular environment, so that's why I was already in this particular folder. So if you are not, you need to go to this particular folder and run it, or give the full path over here based on your choice. So let us restart Splunk now. So I will just restart Splunk here. So we will wait once the Splunk restart completed. Then we will first try to see from the manager dashboard how it looks like. Then we will try to configure other peer nodes here. Our Splunk has been restarted. So let us first try to see it. So for that, what I will do is I will come over here and I will log into my manager node here. So let us go back. Paste it here. So we logged into our manager node now. So if I just go to settings under distributed environment, if you just go to indexer clustering, same like what we have done is for the normal indexer cluster. If you see, currently it is telling me no peers has been configured. So now let us try to configure our peers. Now to configure the peers, let us go back to our text file. So to configure the peers, so we will follow the similar approach. So we will still use the cluster config utility over here, and instead of mode equals to manager, the mode will be peer over here. That will be the difference. you need to basically tell which side this particular peer will belongs to. So as we have two sides and we have three peers, so for each and every peer we have to configure basically their corresponding sites. So for the peer which belongs to site 1, the command, this input will be site 1. For the peers which will belong to site 2, this input will be site 2 over here. There also you need to give the manager UI, which is nothing but this one, this IP address. I have used it over here, but you need to be sure like you will be using the management port 8089 here, and you need to give the replication port as well. So I have given just 9887, so you can give any available port in your instance. And then the last one is the secret. You need to give the secret key over here, so you need to basically use the corresponding secret key. So now I will go to each and every peer which will belongs to my site 1 and then configure their corresponding cluster over here. So let me show you for a single peer, then maybe I will quickly do it for other peers as well. So first we will log in from the backend to the site 1 peer 1. So that is what I have done it over here. Okay, so now first thing is, as I told, we need to go to opt splunk bin, but first before that we need to sudo to splunk, and then we need to just go to this opt splunk bin folder, because we are going to use run some command over here, right? So now we will be using the sudo splunk edit cluster, this one over here. So for the site 1, this is peer 1, so this will belongs to the site 1, this particular peer. So let us run this one. So sudo password 1234, and then Splunk username is admin, Splunk password is this one. So now the cluster property has been edited. We need to restart Splunk. So let us do that, and after that we will check it whether this is joined the cluster or not. So let us restart the Splunk. We'll come back after Splunk restart completed. So our Splunk has been restarted now. So if I just log into this guy over here first, or maybe we can just see it from the master node itself. So let us go back to our master node, and if you see, the site 1 peer 1 is already showing up over here, but it is still showing some data is not searchable, search factor not met, because we still not have make other peers joined over here. So we will do that one. Okay, so site 1 peer 1 is up and it is joined the cluster over here. So now let us quickly add other site 1 peers over here. Now one thing we need to remember over here is, this is also very much important because this is the context as I remember this one. So first thing is the manager. If you have followed the video for on the indexer cluster, there also we have discussed the same stuff. Until and unless the proper number of peers required for the cluster to function, like this replication factor or search factor, until and unless this is getting met, the peers will not be, the master will not allow any indexing on the peers. That is the one thing. Second thing is, the default value of the search factor and the replication factor for the normal indexer cluster was like 2 and 3, right? So now this has an effect on multi-site cluster as well, because those two configuration still exist in the server as well when you do the multi-site clustering. That is the default value Splunk have it inside their code internally, I think. So that's why if you have the number, if your number of peers for a particular cluster is less than 3, so let's say 2 or 1, in that case you may need to change that, explicitly change that search factor and replication factor as well in your server.conf. So that thing you have to remember, otherwise you will get some error here, like the search factor still not met, even though you have done proper configurations, then still you will get those, you can get those errors. Okay, so that you have to remember. But for our case, as we have 3 pairs for each and every site, so we are covered over there in that case. Now what I'll do now is I will quickly run the same command for other pairs as well in site 1. Okay, so I have actually run these commands for all the pairs for both of the site 1 and site 2 over here. So if I just go back to our cluster, basically our cluster master now, so if you see, like, all these sites have already joined this particular multi-site cluster, and all this basically pairs, and our search factor is already made and our replication factor is already made based on the site search factor and site replication factor we have mentioned in our master node, right? Master node, you have defined that one. So this is actually the indexer cluster setup is done, the multi-site indexer cluster. If you see, like, these are the currently searchable index. Maybe in next video we will try to see, we will forward some data to this indexers and to a particular index, and then we'll try to see whether this is getting replicated or not. And currently this particular manager node is only available as a search head because it has a search head as well, but we are not going to use this one as a search head. So let us now try to add our search heads over here. So for that, what we'll do is we'll again go back to this particular text document I have created. So don't worry, I will be sharing this one in my GitHub repo, so you can refer it over here. So now another thing, before I move on to configuring the search head, another thing is very important is, if you see, like, this replication port, this management port, and this particular web port. So if you are using Google Cloud or any other cloud service, so you need to keep in mind that you need to basically allow traffic for those ports. So for that, if you are in Google Cloud, you need to go to this VPC network, okay, and then the firewall rule. So once I go over there, so if you see, I have added this particular rule here. Okay, so it will basically allow traffic, basically TCP traffic to 8000, 8089 and 9887 for all your instances here. Okay, so that you need to configure it here as well. So let's move on. Let's try to configure the search heads, the 2 search heads here. So for 2 different sites, we have 2 different search heads, right? So that we are going to configure. So we are going to use the similar kinds of command over here. So only thing is that the difference will be the sites. The search head will belongs to that particular site, right? So this site you need to mention it over here. Now this is important. So let us, okay, so what will be the search head configuration for site 2? So this will be, my site will be site 2 here, correct? Rest of the information will be same over here. In the manager UI, you need to give the same cluster manager over node details over here, and need to use HTTPS over here. That is also important thing here. And mode will be searched here, that is important. Now another important thing is, for the site, as the search heads will be site aware, right? Because there is a concept called search affinity. So if you give a particular site name here, the search head will be basically the search affinity you will be turning on. That means the search head will always try to get the data from its local site. Now if you do not want to configure the search affinity, what you can do is, instead of giving a specific site name, you can also give site 0. So in that case, the search basically the search head will not be searching the data into this local site, it will search across the sites. So that's the concept behind turning on and turning off the search affinity. So site 0 will basically turn off the search affinity, and if you are giving a particular site name, that will basically turn on the site search affinity over here. So I will again do the same thing. I will just try to log in to the particular site search head and run these commands. So I'll show you one, then I will do it the other one. So I'll go back again to our Google Cloud. So this is our site one searched. So I'll just SSH. Now from the OPT Splunk bin folder, we will just try to run this particular command. It will ask you for the password, so which you need to give it, and Splunk details as well. So once it is done, you need to restart the server once. Insert. So once the Splunk is restart, let us see that whether this particular searched is able to, we're able to see that searched in the cluster definition or not. So then I will do the same stuff for the other searched over here as well. So our Splunk has been restarted. Let us go back in our cluster manager, and if I just go to searched page, if you see it, my site one searched is already showing up over here, and it is up as well. So we are able to add the searched to our cluster. Now let me do the same stuff for the site 2 searched as well. So once I ran that command in site 2 searched and restarted that one, it also joined this particular cluster here. So we are able to set up the multi-site indexer cluster here, and all our search factor and replication factors are met now. Maybe in next video we will talk about ingesting some data and try to experiment with it more. And one thing you need to remember, when these peers will be joining this particular multi-site cluster, you should not actually restart this manager node. Otherwise you have to restart the PR node again. Okay, so that you need to remember over here. So hopefully we got a fair idea about how to configure this multi-site clustering. See you in next video.